video to tell you about the history of abolitionism in the UK.
During this video, we will tell you some of the history of where we come from and what made our country what it is. We'll be answering this question here. Show it.
Oh, sorry.
Who were the abolitionists and how did they come together? Question mark. Thanks a lot, Lou.
You're welcome. All with the help of our dear friend/mentor, Simon Cowell.
Don't talk about me, talk about history. Sometimes you guys are just such codswallop.
For any of you that don't know what that means, it's British slang for rubbish.
Let's get into this lesson.
Abolitionism was a movement to end slavery, whether formal or informal. An abolitionist is a person who favors the abolition of a practice or institution, especially capital punishment or formally slavery.
In Western Europe and the Americas, it was a historical movement to end the African slave trade and set the slaves free.
The Spanish government enacted the first European law abolishing colonial slavery in 1542, even though the law was not widely enforced.
I wish we didn't have enforced laws like not touching or breaking things. Simon.
Well, without the rules, you would cost me a lot of money and you guys would probably be in jail.
Well, let's move on from that and get back to the point of this video.
Later in the 17th century, English Quakers and evangelical religious groups condemned slavery, by then applied mostly to Africans as unchristian.
In the 18th century, abolition was part of the message of the First Great Awakening in the 13 colonies.
And in the same period, rationalist thinkers of the Enlightenment criticized it for violating the rights of man. James Edward Oglethorpe was among one of the first to articulate the Enlightenment case against slavery, banning it in the province of Georgia on humanistic grounds, arguing it against in Parliament, and eventually encouraging his friends Granville Sharp and Hannah More to vigorously pursue the cause.
Hey Harry, isn't that your middle name? He stole it from you.
People can have the same name, Louis.
Wait, so people have my name?
Yes, Louis. Let's get on with this.
Soon after Oglethorpe's death in 1785, they joined with William Wilberforce and others in forming the Clapham sect.
The Somerset's case in 1772, which emancipated a slave in England, helped launch the British movement to abolish slavery.
Though anti-slavery sentiments were widespread by the late 18th century, the colonies and emerging nations that used slave labor continued to do so. French and English territories in the West Indies, South America, and the south of the United States.
After the American Revolutionary War, established by the United States, northern states, beginning with Pennsylvania in 1780, passed a legislation during the next 2 decades abolishing slavery, sometimes by gradual emancipation or slowly being able to be free.
Massachusetts ratified a constitution that declared all men equal. Freedom suits challenging slavery based on this principle brought an end to slavery in the state. In other states, such as Virginia, similar declarations of rights were interpreted by the courts not applicable to Africans.
Revolutionary France abolished slavery in 1794, but it was restored by Napoleon in the French colonies in 1802. Haiti achieved independence from France in 1804 and brought an end to slavery in its territory, establishing the Second Republic in the Western Hemisphere.
British banned the importation of African slaves in its colonies in 1807, and the United States criminalized the international slave trade in the same year. Britain abolished slavery throughout the British Empire with Slavery Abolition Act 1833, passed by the Parliament of the United Kingdom. The French colonies abolished it in 1848 and the United States in 1865.
In Eastern Europe, groups organized to abolish the enslavement of the Roma in Wallachia and Moldavia, and to emancipate the serfs in Russia, aka the Emancipation Reform of 1861. It was declared illegal in 1948 under the Universal Rights of Man and the United Nations.
The last country to abolish legal slavery was Mauritania, where it was officially abolished by presidential decree in 1981.
Today, child and adult slavery and forced labor are illegal in most countries, as well as being against international law, but a high rate of human trafficking for labor and for sexual bondage continues, believed to affect millions of adults and children.
Now here are some people that were involved in all of this.
Thomas Clarkson lived from 1760 to 1846. In 1787, he helped form the first abolitionist committee. He was a crucial person to the anti-slavery campaign because of his tireless energy, like Louis, his hatred of injustice, and his persuasiveness in getting witnesses on board.
Okay, Harry. William Cowper lived from 1731 to 1800s. William Cowper, the poet, wrote a number of anti-slavery poems. He was friends with the anti-slavery campaigner John Newton, who asked him to write in support of the abolitionist campaign. Cowper wrote a poem called The Negro's Complaint in 1788, which rapidly became very famous. He also, excuse me, he also wrote, Harry.
Louis.
He also wrote several other less well-known poems on slavery in the 1780s, many of which attacked the idea that slavery was economically viable.
Olada Equiano lived from 1745 to 1797. He was one of the most prominent black campaigners in the anti-slavery campaign. He was an ex-slave who, by the 1780s, lived as a free man in London. He is mostly remembered for his 1789 autobiography. It tells of his kidnapping in Nigeria, his being sold into slavery, his journey into the West Indies, his life as a slave, and his struggle to buy his freedom. His freedom.
Okay. Alexander Falconbridge died in 1792.
So sad.
It's really sad that no one knows when he was born. He was a ship's surgeon from Bristol and a friend of John Newton. He experienced life aboard ship during 4 crossings of the Atlantic before quitting the slave trade on principle. The abolitionist campaigner Thomas Clarkson realized he would make an excellent witness, and Falconbridge was interviewed by Richard Phillips, a member of the abolitionist committee, who used his information to publish a detailed, gritty, memorable account of conditions on board a slave ship. His book was published in 1788 and was widely read. He also gave evidence of a Parliament hearing.
Elizabeth Hayrick lived from 1769 to 1831. She was one of the most prominent female campaigners against slavery in the 1820s and 1830s.
Ooh la la.
She was a Quaker from Leicester with progressive political views who devoted her life to social reform. She helped set up a ladies' association in Birmingham.
Association.
Shut up, Louis. And organized a sugar boycott in Leicester. Okay. She had very radical views, favoring the immediate emancipation of slaves, while the Anti-Slavery Society preferred gradual emancipation.
What?
Oh, good luck, Louis.
Tau St. Louverture. What? Toussaint Louverture. Oh, whatever, Harry. I don't speak French, even though I live in England.
No, I do.
shush, lived from about 1743 to 1803. As one of the leaders of the Haitian Revolution, he was considered one of the fathers of the Haitian nation. Hey, that rhymes. Haitian nation. Ha ha ha.
I could have told you that.
Shut up! Born around 1743, he was legally freed in 1777 and died in 1803. His name is also spelled Tausi. We don't need to know the spelling. They're not going to see it. Whoever wrote this is stupid.
I agree. Takes that.
How's he doing?
John Newton lived from 1725 to 1807. John Newton was a former slave trader who converted to evangelical Christianity after his miraculous escape from Atlantic storm in 1748. He later became a clergyman, and in 1764 he was ordained as a priest. Telling Eleanor and Kevin.
Not Kevin.
Tell
No.
Kevin. You've lost your carrot privileges. In his later years, he chose to campaign against the slave trade. He wrote a journal of his life on board a slave ship and also wrote an anti-slavery pamphlet. Haha.
Loser.
He is particularly famous for the hymn Amazing Grace, which tells the story of his
It's called
redemption.
a hymn.
Oh well. Through religion.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved your right like me.
Not like you.
You're so mean.
Like you.
Let's get on to this. Gosh,
You're the one that was singing.
Mary Prince was a slave born in Barbados.
That's nice. So was Tishuba.
But brought to Britain by her owners. Once in Britain, she said she tried unsuccessfully to gain her freedom and decided to go public with her experiences of being a slave. Her story was narrated to the author Susanna Strickland and was published in 1831. Her account particularly appealed to female anti-slavery campaigners as it highlighted the effect slavery had on domestic life.
Granville Sharps lived from 1735 to 1813. As chairman of the committee to abolish the slave trade, he was the oldest and most experienced of the members. He had spoken out against slavery long before it was a popular cause. He came from a wealthy and deeply religious Yorkshire family. He was an extraordinarily.
No, it's extraordinary, not Harley. Are you Harley?
No, because my name Harry.
Your
is
name's
famous.
not Harley though.
You're just mad because there's nothing with Louis in it.
Yeah, there is. I just forgot it.
Of course you did. He was an extraordinarily
Harry.
active
It's your hair.
pamphleteer on slavery, as well as a
Give
whole
all his
range
hair.
of other topics. He also developed a reputation for taking up in court the case of fugitive slaves who had been brought to London from the West Indies and wanted their freedom. He won a historic ruling in the James Somerset case of 1771, which forbade owners with black servants in Britain from deporting them back to slavery in the West Indies.
Aw. William Wilberforce lived from 1759 to 1833. He was the main figurehead in Parliament for the abolitionist campaign. He was recruited by Thomas Clarkson, who recognized that in order to get Parliament to change the law, the anti-slavery cause needed a brilliant advocate inside Parliament itself. During the period of 1792 to 1805, when England was at war with France, support for the abolitionist campaign collapsed. Wilberforce, therefore, pursued other issues of reform but retained his belief that one day slavery would be abolished. In 1807, after a long emotional debate, like with you, Harry, the abolition.
Kevin.
Shut up. The Abolition Act was finally passed. Do not bring Kevin into this.
So now
No.
that we are done, especially with Louis,
Oh,
does anyone have any questions?
yeah, Simon.
First of all, there's no one here except me, and second of all, do you guys even know what you're talking about?
It's not like we didn't go to primary school and college, Simon. Just because we didn't go to university and maybe we didn't pay attention in class doesn't mean anything.
Whatever.
Well, that's it for this video. We hope you learned about abolitionism in England.
And don't forget to buy our album, Midnight Memories, and get tickets for the Where We Are tour, because those will all go down in history like this did.
Of course, if Louis was there.
Shush. Bye.
Guys, break it up.